The scent of orange blossoms and expensive perfume hung thick in the church air, making my stomach turn. I stood in the bridal suite, my hands trembling as Maria, my mother's oldest friend, adjusted the veil that had been in our family for 3 generations. The Venetian lace felt like a shroud against my skin. "Bellissima," Maria whispered, her weathered hands gentle on my shoulders. "Giovanni Caccini is a lucky man." Lucky. The word tasted bitter in my mouth. I was 22 years old, standing in a wedding dress worth more than most people's houses, about to marry a man who terrified me as much as he fascinated me. Giovanni Caccini, 37 years old, head of the Chicago branch of the Cosa Nostra, a man whose very name made grown men pale. And he was about to become my husband. Through the closed door, I could hear the murmur of voices from the cathedral. Every important family in the organization was here. The Morettis from New York, the Russos from Boston, the Salvatores from Detroit. This wasn't just a wedding. It was a political statement, a consolidation of power, a promise of alliance between the Benedetto and Caccini families. I was the promise, the offering, the pretty prize wrapped in white silk and family duty. My reflection stared back at me from the full-length mirror. The dress was exquisite, custom-made in Milan with a fitted bodice that emphasized curves I'd been taught to hide, and a flowing skirt that made me look like something out of a fairy tale. My dark hair was swept up in an elaborate style, the veil cascading down my back like a waterfall of lace. Diamond earrings, a gift from Giovanni, glittered at my ears. I looked like a bride. I felt like a sacrifice. The door opened and my father entered, resplendent in his tuxedo. Dante Benedetto was a handsome man, even at 55, with silver threading through his dark hair and the kind of presence that commanded attention without effort. But it was the expression on his face that made my blood run cold. Something was wrong. "Papa?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. He closed the door behind him with deliberate care, and the click of the latch sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. Maria took one look at his face and quickly excused herself, leaving us alone. "Chiara." My father's voice was strained. "Sit down." "I don't want to sit down." Fear crystallized in my chest. "What's happened? Is Giovanni—" "Giovanni is fine." The words were clipped. Physically, at least. I pressed a hand to my stomach, where butterflies had been dancing all morning. "Then what?" "He's called it off." The world tilted. I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. "What?" "The wedding." My father's jaw was tight with barely controlled rage. "Giovanni Caccini has decided he doesn't want to marry you." The words didn't make sense. Couldn't make sense. But everyone's here. The cathedral is full. The reception is... I know where everyone is, Chiara. My father's voice cracked like a whip. Giovanni made his announcement 10 minutes ago, in front of everyone. He stood at the altar and told the priest, told the families, told God himself that he would not be taking you as his wife. Humiliation crashed over me in waves. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't process what I was hearing. Why? The question emerged as barely a whisper. He didn't offer an explanation. My father moved to the window, his back rigid. He simply said he'd made a mistake, that the marriage wouldn't proceed, that he wouldn't be bound to a woman he doesn't want. Doesn't want. The words burrowed into my chest like bullets. I had spent months preparing for this wedding, months accepting my fate, making peace with marrying a man 15 years my senior, a man whose reputation was built on violence and fear. I had convinced myself that I could make it work, that I could be the wife he needed, that maybe, eventually, we could build something real. And he didn't want me. "The families are in chaos," my father continued, his voice hard. The Morettis are demanding explanations. The Russos are questioning Giovanni's stability. The Salvatoris are already discussing what this means for existing alliances. He turned to face me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in my father's eyes. Pity. You understand what this means for you, don't you? I understood perfectly. In our world, a woman rejected at the altar was tainted goods. It didn't matter that I'd done nothing wrong. The speculation would be vicious. Did she displease him somehow? Is there something wrong with her? Maybe she isn't pure? The whispers would follow me everywhere, destroying any chance I had of a respectable marriage. I was ruined. I want to see him. The words surprised me as much as they surprised my father. Chiara, I want to see Giovanni. My voice was stronger now, fueled by a rage I didn't know I possessed. If he's going to destroy my life, he can at least tell me why to my face. My father studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded once, sharply. He's in the sacristy. But Chiara, be careful. Giovanni Caccini is not a man who tolerates confrontation, especially not from women. I didn't care about toleration. I didn't care about protocol or respect or any of the rules I'd been taught since birth. Giovanni Caccini had just humiliated me in front of every important person in our world. The least he could do was look me in the eye while I fell apart. I gathered my skirts and swept past my father, ignoring his warnings. The hallway outside the bridal suite was empty, but I could hear the chaos from the cathedral. Raised voices, angry conversations, the sound of families fragmenting over broken promises. The sacristy was at the opposite end of the church. I walked through empty corridors, my heels clicking against marble floors, the train of my dress whispering behind me like ghostly witnesses. My heart pounded against my ribs, fear and fury warring for dominance. I didn't knock. I simply opened the door and walked in. Giovanni stood by the window, his back to me, one hand braced against the frame. He wore his tuxedo like armor, every line perfect, every detail precise. His dark hair was swept back from his face, and even from behind he radiated power and control. He didn't turn around when I entered, didn't acknowledge my presence, simply stood there, immovable as stone. Look at me. My voice echoed in the small room. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't obey. Then, slowly, he turned. The first time I'd met Giovanni Caccini, I'd been 17 years old. He'd come to my father's house for a business meeting, and I'd been instructed to serve coffee. I'd been terrified of him then. This tall, imposing man with eyes like winter storms, and a presence that seemed to consume all the air in any room he entered. But I'd also been fascinated. There was something magnetic about his intensity, something compelling about the way he moved through the world with absolute certainty. 5 years later, that fascination had turned into something more complicated, something I'd convinced myself could be the foundation of a marriage. Now, looking at him, I felt only betrayal. Chiara. My name on his lips was flat, emotionless. You owe me an explanation. I moved further into the room, my dress rustling. You stand me up at the altar, humiliate me in front of everyone, destroy my reputation, and you won't even tell me why. His jaw tightened. That was the only indication he'd heard me. This isn't personal. Not personal? My laugh was sharp, bitter. How is this not personal, Giovanni? You agreed to marry me. Our families arranged this union. I prepared for months to be your wife. And now, minutes before we're supposed to exchange vows, you decide you don't want me? How is that anything but personal? You wouldn't understand. Then make me understand. My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. Tell me what I did wrong. Tell me why I'm not good enough. Tell me something, anything, that makes sense of this. He moved toward me then, and I instinctively took a step back. Giovanni noticed, and something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or regret. But it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. You didn't do anything wrong, Kiara. His voice was low, controlled. This is about me, about what I can and cannot accept in my life. And you can't accept me. I can't accept what you represent. The words hit like a slap. What I represent. I'm not a symbol, Giovanni. I'm a person. A woman who was willing to bind her life to yours, who was prepared to stand beside you through everything, who... My voice broke. I hated that it broke. Hated showing weakness in front of this man who seemed carved from ice. Exactly. He cut me off, his tone sharp. You were prepared to stand beside me, to be loyal, devoted, committed. Do you have any idea what that kind of devotion means in my world, Kiara? It means I would have been a good wife. It means you would have become a weakness. The words were cold, final. In my position, I cannot afford weaknesses. I cannot afford to care about anyone or anything beyond the organization. The moment I let myself... He stopped abruptly, his jaw clenching. This is better for both of us. Trust me. Trust you? Disbelief colored my voice. You're destroying my life and you want me to trust you? Your life isn't destroyed. You're young, beautiful, from a good family. You'll find another match. The casual dismissal ignited something inside me. I crossed the space between us before I could think better of it, standing close enough to see the gold flecks in his storm-gray eyes, close enough to smell his cologne, something expensive and distinctly him. You coward, I said softly. You're afraid. His eyes darkened dangerously. Watch your tongue, Kiara. Why? What are you going to do? Humiliate me further? Destroy what's left of my reputation? I tilted my head back to meet his gaze. You're the head of the most powerful crime family in Chicago. Men fear you. Rival organizations avoid direct conflict with you. But you're terrified of one thing, feeling something real for someone. You know nothing about me. I know you're running. From me. From this marriage. From the possibility that you might actually have to care about someone other than yourself. His hand shot out, gripping my arm. Not painfully, but firmly enough that I couldn't pull away. Don't presume to understand my choices. Then explain them. I held his gaze, refusing to flinch. Make me understand why you'd rather destroy both our futures than take a chance on... I stopped myself before saying too much. On what? His voice was dangerous now, quiet in a way that made my pulse race. On love? On building something real? Is that what you think this marriage was supposed to be, Kiara? Some fairy tale where the princess tames the beast? I never thought you were a beast, Giovanni. I thought you were a man. A complicated, dangerous man. Yes, but still a man capable of being a husband. I paused. I was wrong, wasn't I? You're not a man. You're exactly what everyone says you are, a monster who cares about nothing but power. The words hung between us, sharp and cutting. For a moment, I saw something break in his expression, something vulnerable and raw. Then it was gone, replaced by the cold mask he wore so well. He released my arm and stepped back. Get out, Kiara. Gladly. I gathered my skirts, preparing to leave with what little dignity I had remaining. But at the door, I paused and looked back at him. You're right about one thing, Giovanni. You can't afford weaknesses, and God help you when you finally realize that by pushing away anyone who could love you, you've made yourself the weakest man in this city. I left before he could respond. My vision blurred with tears I refused to let fall until I was alone. Behind me, I heard the crash of something shattering against a wall. Good. Let him destroy things. Let him rage. It changed nothing. Giovanni Caccini had rejected me, and now I would have to live with the consequences. 3 months passed like a slow death. I became invisible in my own home, a ghost drifting through rooms that suddenly felt too small, too suffocating. My mother stopped meeting my eyes at breakfast. My younger sister whispered with her friends and fell silent when I entered a room. Even the household staff treated me differently, with pity poorly disguised as respect. The rejection had done exactly what Giovanni must have known it would do, destroyed my standing in our world. Marriage proposals dried up completely. Men who might have been interested before now avoided me at family gatherings. I was damaged goods, tainted by a rejection I couldn't explain and a humiliation I couldn't escape. My father, to his credit, tried to maintain normalcy. But I saw how the other families treated him now. The whispers about his daughter, the speculation about what I must have done to disgust Giovanni Caccini so thoroughly. Dante Benedetto's reputation suffered because of me, and there was nothing I could do to fix it. I spent my days reading in the library, going for supervised walks in our gardens, existing but not living. At night, I lay awake wondering what was wrong with me, what Giovanni had seen that made him run, what deficiency I possessed that made me unworthy of being his wife. The anger had faded, replaced by something worse: resignation. This was my life now, a cautionary tale. The girl who almost married Giovanni Caccini and wasn't enough to keep him. It was a Tuesday afternoon when everything changed again. I was in the library, curled up in my favorite chair with a book I wasn't really reading, when my father burst through the door. His face was pale, his movements jerky with barely controlled panic. "Pack a bag," he ordered without preamble. "Enough for a week. Do it now." I set down my book, alarm spiking through me. "Papa, what's happened?" "Just do as I say, Chiara. Quickly." I'd been raised to obey my father without question, so I went to my room and pulled out a leather weekender bag. My hands shook as I packed clothes, toiletries, essentials. Through my window, I could see unusual activity in our courtyard. More security than normal. Men with guns positioned at strategic points. Maria knocked and entered without waiting for permission. Her face was drawn with worry as she helped me pack more efficiently than my panicked fumbling allowed. "What's going on?" I asked her quietly. "There's been a betrayal," she whispered, glancing at the door. "Someone close to your father has been feeding information to the Vitale family. They're planning something big, and the Benedettos are no longer safe in Chicago. The Vitales, a rival organization based in Philadelphia, known for their brutality and their long-standing grudge against the Chicago families. If they were moving against my father, it meant war. Where are we going?" "You're going somewhere safe." Maria's hand stilled on the clothing she was folding. "Your father is sending you to the one man powerful enough to protect you from the Vitales." Ice spread through my veins. "No." "Giovanni Caccini has offered his protection." "No." I backed away from the bag. "I won't go to him. I won't give him that satisfaction." "Chiara, this isn't about satisfaction or pride." Maria gripped my shoulders. "The Vitales are ruthless. If they get their hands on you, they'll use you against your father in ways you can't even imagine. Giovanni's compound is fortified. His men are loyal. You'll be safe there." "I'd rather die than beg Giovanni Caccini for protection." "It's not begging, Cara. It's survival." She cupped my face gently. "And you're not going alone. Your father has negotiated terms. Giovanni will provide protection, but there's a price." Of course there was a price. Men like Giovanni Caccini never did anything out of the goodness of their hearts. "What price?" "The marriage he rejected 3 months ago." Maria's voice was soft but firm. "He'll agree to marry you properly this time, giving you his name and his full protection. In exchange, your father will support Giovanni's expansion into new territories and provide intelligence on the Vitale's operations." A bitter laugh escaped me. "So I get to marry the man who humiliated me, And this time it's because he needs something from my father. How romantic. Chiara, don't. I pulled away from her touch. Don't tell me this is for the best, or that everything happens for a reason. Giovanni made his choice 3 months ago. He doesn't want me, remember? He said I was a weakness he couldn't afford. Whatever his reasons were then, he's willing to overlook them now. Maria's expression was troubled. Your father believes Giovanni will honor the marriage this time. The threat to you is real, Chiara. If the Vitalis get you... I know. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. I know what they'll do. I've heard the stories. The Vitalis didn't just kill their enemies. They destroyed them slowly, methodically, using every psychological and physical torture available. Women in particular were subjected to horrors designed to break both them and their families. My father was right to be terrified. I was right to be terrified. But going to Giovanni felt like jumping from one prison into another. How long do I have? I asked finally, opening my eyes. Your father wants you gone within the hour. Giovanni is sending a security team to escort you to his compound. Of course he is. I returned to the bag, mechanically adding more items. Can't trust the Benedettos to transport their own daughter safely. It's not about trust. It's about firepower. Maria helped me zip the bag. Giovanni's men are better trained, better armed. They'll get you there alive, which is all that matters right now. The drive to Giovanni's compound took 45 minutes through Chicago's outskirts into an area I'd never been. The security team was exactly as Maria described, professional, heavily armed, and completely silent. I sat in the back of an armored SUV, watching the city give way to suburbs, and then to the isolated estate where Giovanni Caccini conducted his business and his life. The compound was impressive in a terrifying way. High walls topped with security cameras and what looked like razor wire. A gate that required multiple checkpoints. Guards positioned at regular intervals, all carrying automatic weapons with casual familiarity. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. We passed through 3 separate security points before the SUV finally stopped in front of a massive stone mansion. Italian Renaissance style. All elegant lines and understated luxury. It should have been beautiful. Instead, it felt like a mausoleum. One of the guards opened my door. Mr. Caccini is waiting inside, Signorina. Of course he was. Giovanni probably enjoyed watching me arrive like a prisoner being delivered to her cell. I stepped out of the vehicle, my chin high despite the fear churning in my stomach. The afternoon sun was warm, but I felt cold. A woman appeared in the doorway of the mansion. Older, perhaps 60, with kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. Miss Benedetto, she greeted me with a slight Italian accent. I'm Rosa, Mr. Caccini's housekeeper. Welcome. Welcome, as though I was a guest rather than a refugee. I followed her inside, my heels clicking against marble floors that probably cost more than a year of most people's salaries. The interior was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive, tasteful, and utterly lacking in warmth. Dark wood, neutral colors, artwork that looked original rather than reproduced. A home designed to impress rather than to comfort. Mr. Caccini asked me to show you to your rooms, Rosa continued, leading me up a sweeping staircase. He thought you might want to rest and refresh yourself before speaking with him. How considerate. Giovanni was probably hoping I'd regain some composure before whatever confrontation was coming. I followed Rosa down a long hallway to a suite of rooms that made my bedroom at home look like a closet. A sitting area, a bedroom with a 4-poster bed draped in silk, a bathroom with both a shower and a soaking tub, and a walk-in closet already filled with clothes in my size. Mr. Caccini had these items purchased for you, Rosa explained, noticing my gaze. If anything doesn't fit or isn't to your taste, just let me know. We can have alterations made or new items brought in. I ran my fingers over a silk blouse, anger simmering beneath my carefully controlled exterior. Giovanni had prepared for my arrival, had purchased an entire wardrobe, had set up these rooms like a gilded cage designed specifically for me. "When does he want to see me?" I asked, my voice flat. "Whenever you're ready, signorina. There's no rush." There was always a rush with men like Giovanni. Every moment was calculated, every action purposeful. If he was giving me time, it was because he wanted me off balance, uncertain, vulnerable. "Tell Mr. Caccini I'll see him now." I met Rosa's eyes. "I don't need to rest or refresh myself. Let's get this over with." Rosa hesitated, then nodded. "Follow me, please." She led me back downstairs to a different wing of the mansion. We stopped outside a heavy wooden door, and Rosa knocked once before opening it. "Miss Benedetto, sir." "Thank you, Rosa." Giovanni's voice came from inside, that same controlled baritone that had haunted my dreams for months. I stepped into what was clearly his office, all dark wood and leather furniture, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and windows overlooking the grounds. Giovanni stood behind a massive desk, his hands braced on the surface, his eyes fixed on me with that same intense focus I remembered from our last encounter. He looked different. Older, maybe. More tired. There were shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before, and his jaw was tight with tension. "Chiara." My name again. But this time there was something in his voice I couldn't quite identify. "Giovanni." I remained by the door, maintaining distance. "I understand I'm to be your prisoner for the foreseeable future." "You're not a prisoner." He straightened, coming around the desk. "You're under my protection." "Is there a difference?" "Yes." He stopped a few feet away, hands sliding into his pockets. The gesture should have made him look casual. Instead, it emphasized the coiled tension in his frame. A prisoner is here against their will. You're here because the alternative is being tortured and killed by the Vitales. So my choice is marry you or die. I kept my voice steady. "Very romantic, Giovanni. You really know how to sweep a woman off her feet." His jaw tightened. "Your father and I have an arrangement." "I know what the arrangement is." I cut him off. "I'm not stupid. You need my father's support for your expansion plans, and he needs your protection for his daughter. It's a business deal. Just like the first wedding attempt, except this time you're actually going through with it, because the benefits outweigh your fear." Something flashed in his eyes. Fear? That's what it was, wasn't it? I took a step closer, anger giving me courage. 3 months ago, you rejected me because you were afraid. Afraid of what I represented. Afraid of caring about someone. Afraid of being vulnerable. And now circumstances have forced your hand. So you're accepting what you ran from before. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Another step. We were close enough now that I could see the muscle ticking in his jaw, could smell that familiar cologne. Tell me, Giovanni, what changed? Did you suddenly realize I'm not a weakness after all? Or did you just decide that the strategic advantages of this marriage outweigh your precious emotional walls? He moved so fast I didn't have time to react. One moment he was standing still. The next his hand was wrapped around my wrist, pulling me close enough that I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. You want to know what changed? His voice was dangerously soft. I'll tell you. 3 months ago, I convinced myself that staying away